8 minutes. For your glory, so use me as you please, as you please. Here I Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let's introduce you to a new era. This is how we get our praise on. We gonna do this one for the one, y'all. The one that sits high and looks low. Yep, Chris Epps. Let's get him. How many times have I forsaken? How many times have I mistaken? I was the one who didn't listen, even after I cried out petition. You held me close and let me know that you never let me go. I realize my position. Now I'm totally walking in submission. You're the one who let me know. You're the one who loved me so. You're the one who'll always care. You're the one who'll always have. Once did you ever give up on me? Even when I willingly went astray. The horizons of the new day shine upon me. I let your love, I let your mercy, let your grace. You restored this faith of mine. Now I know you're faith of mine. Okay. Uncle Dexter from 1632 Real Talk on a Saturday morning. Thank you for tuning in. Proverbs 19:18, the paraphrase version. Discipline your children while they're young enough to learn. If you don't, you are helping them to destroy themselves. Dexter's not a doctor, not a lawyer, not a therapist. I hold myself out to be nothing but this Dexter, nobody. Really trying to just reach one person. If you can use the information, you use it. If you can't use it, throw it in the garbage can and keep it moving. So prayers, Prayers for Men is a good little book. The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz is a good book. This other book, which I had on Kindle, but I just got in the mail, Hijack Dopamine, by Dr. C.C. Rivera. Addicted to Dopamine, Not Substances.
That's really what the whole crux of it is. It's a good book. I'm not, yeah, it's a read. Talks about, anger. I was on the subject last week about self-doubt, and anger and resentment is, especially for marginalized men and women, is what they call Achilles heels. Is that how you properly say it? So when we respond emotionally, we become detached from the ground of reason. So when Uncle responds to a negative situation or how people get at me, uh, sometimes I still today get detached from my ground of reason and love, and then I begin to uncontrollably shift back into the negative. This is a work in progress. In essence, emotion disengages us from our consciousness, from Uncle's consciousness. That's really what it does. So when we self-doubt, and when we have the anger, and when we have the rage, and the resentment, and the bitterness, and the vitriol, the hatred, when we have all this stuff, it gets us away from our center. And it sometimes gets away from the center. The good thing about it's like lifting weights. So this thing down inside me will either check me in the middle of it, check me before I start it, or it'll pull me back. I hope I'm saying it right. Where I need to be, especially if you learn to, if my brothers and sisters out there learn to, the homeless, the people in prison, people in the county jails, you got to learn how to meditate. I didn't say this special way. You just have to learn how to, you have to come to grips with that. You have to learn how to be still and know that you're not the Most High. And we're living in a world, I told you, that's moving fast. And folk who are tied up into this business of injustices that have been done to them, your uncle's like that. The mind just continues to spin. And when it continues to spin, the tape continues to spin, it gets you away from your grounded, it gets Uncle away from where I'm grounded at, where I can have reason, where I can use love in order to be able to check down. Not react, but respond. Just thought I'd stop by on a Saturday morning just to talk about this thing called a supremacy of love. In relationship to man-woman relationship, and it crosses all facets of life, all races of people. It applies to everybody. What we don't learn, like I didn't learn in 1632, is how to control what comes out of my mouth because I was angry. And so as we get attached to these social media things, you see it all day long. People are angry and they're making a lot of money at promoting anger, promoting rage. What you sow, you must reap. So although people are making money at it, they're going to reap what they sow. I don't know when it's going to happen, but it's guaranteed to happen. And so as my sisters and brothers who are less fortunate than I, who are down, whether they be homeless, whether they be in jail, that's just a momentary state. It's a momentary state of mind. If you stay trapped in this thing, and you're led by the emotion, you'll stay strung out on dope, you'll stay homeless, you'll continue to make bad decisions, just like Unc did. It's just the small things that I had to learn how to adjust to, dealing with things going from bitter to better, better to responsible, responsible to accountable, accountable to the struggle, from the struggle to rejection, and then motivation. It's just the small things. And I know it sounds like you may be sitting on the river, you may be sitting in a jail cell, and you can't comprehend it, you can't get your hands around it. Take it one at a time. Learn how to slow your mind down. Learn how to clear the clutter out of it. It's just like lifting weights. And the name of the game is learn how to get to the center, to get to your center. The name of the game for Unc every day is to stay in the center, to stay in my center of me, to stay in the here and now, not what's coming, not what happened yesterday. And it's got to be in the center, grounded in reason and in love, not the head love. It's got to be grounded in the center. Dexter has to be grounded in the center and with love that comes from the pit of my belly. That's what I believe. Some people want to call it tuition. I don't know, call it whatever name you want to call it, but it's not your stuff. When we are trying to deal with social and economical situations in our immediate circle, in the immediate village, whether it be with kids, whether it be with our wife, whether it be with the side. I don't know who it may be with, but we have a tendency to doubt ourselves. And the doubt and the self-doubt also creates or sends us to that direction, sends us to the direction to respond emotionally to anything that we're facing. And when we do that, it takes us away from the center. And when it takes us away from the center, that which was grounded in love is gone. So now I'm just left, or you're left hanging out there operating on charisma, your own stuff. Well, in the midst of negative, if you don't have the tools in your toolbox and you're operating on your own stuff, you're hitting on another cylinder. It's negative for negative. You don't have the ability to be able to, the negative in front of you, to pull out something positive to check the negative. That won't be available to you. So, you know, mothers and wives, husbands and wives, and young folk young single mothers, you're going to have to acquire more tools in your toolbox to be able to not get caught up in the emotional loop. Unc's been saying for much. The fourth quarter. So some people have adopted it, they understand it. We're in the fourth quarter. And so there's going to be some social and economical changes that should be better for the entire whole of people. Either way it go, either side, there's going to be some changes. And trying to live this life, especially being a marginalized man, marginalized woman, you're going to need to be grounded and stay grounded to deal with whatever new sets of rules and regulations may come by. You may need to learn how to stay grounded in love to deal with the adversity that may come from way of your children with respect to the schools that they go to, the teachers and that kind of stuff. It's just it's the human relationship that we have with one another, especially with people in authority who look like our mothers and our fathers in terms of the tone that's set. We have the pride has a tendency to send us another direction that introduces us again into the emotional realm. You know, you get a phone call and from work, and your son's acting up, and you gotta take off, and the first thing you go to is not again. You don't have no sick leave. The husband's not around, and as opposed to learning how to take in the information, not react to the information, but respond to the information, understanding that the person on the other end has just got a job to do, and so they're the messenger. They perhaps weren't the teacher who initiated calling you or taking the child to the principal. But then we have the tendency, because based on the phone call, based on what we got going on at work, we go emotionally. Then that emotion, based on our child who's connected to us, pulls us away from the center. We're doing good at work. We're performing. We were cordial. We were producing. But some bad news came in, which we didn't expect, because perhaps you had conversations with Charlie, conversations with Daryl, the son, the children, about how I act in school, and up goes a phone call. So the phone call comes in, you react to name the game. As the phone call comes in, you hear the proposition or the statement on the other end. So what are you asking me? Do I need to come and get him? Is he suspended? Bingo, you need to come and get him. He's been suspended. You respond accordingly. Give me 15 minutes to a half hour, I'm coming. There's no need to go. There's no need to be pulled from your center, because you just responded, grounded, in love, just like folk are supposed to do. Is that making sense? Hope one person gets this, because they're having a lot more problems in schools with the children and their behavior and how parents are responding to or reacting to it, because they're not responding, they're reacting. And then it just totally gets out of hand, because when you leave your center, leave the force of love, what happens is that the human dark side comes in. The animalistic side of us rises up. That which we generally learn to control. At least at 1632, that's what I learned to control it. Am I making any sense that I make that connection? And like I said, in essence, the emotion disengages us. The emotion, how we get tied up in the information on the other end. It's a trigger. As opposed to listening to the information, checking it down. Again, do I need to come and get him? Is he in school, suspension? And then responding to it civilly, like you have good sense. But when you've been triggered and you pulled away from your center, you pulled away from that which guides you. You're operating on your own stuff. And it's a disaster waiting to happen. You know why it's a disaster waiting to happen? Because pride's standing right behind it, propping it up. Unc just stopped by on Saturday morning to talk to you about anger, rage, resentment, bitterness, vitriol, hatred, pride. I'm sorry. Envy, jealousy, and the two imposters, pride and ego. And that same scenario happens in our interpersonal relationships with our wives, with our girlfriends, with people in the village, people in the community. It's all about how we handle the situation. It's all about learning how to communicate. It's all about learning how to develop the skill set to not allow people to pull you from your center. Because you know, if you get pulled from your center, what behavior comes up? How do you respond? How do you react to it? It's not in a civil manner. It's not in a manner that's respectable. It's not in a manner where things can be amicably resolved. It's in an animalistic manner, that which we fight and flight manner, survival manner, triggers. So I just, okay, so in this situation, when we get from bitter to better, bitter would have been the situation that I got pulled from my center. That's attached to love. That's bitterness. And everything's attached to it. But when we get from bitter to better, there ought to be a yearning in our bellies, never to truly go back to being bitter, full of hate and anger and rage. Because only one behavior can come out of that. Only one response can come out of being bitter and full of anger and rage. And 9 times out of 10, when we are stuck in that, and we're stuck in that emotion, once it calms down, we end up regretting it. We end up looking like a fool. Our children see us, our parents see us, our neighbors see us, and we end up looking like a plumb fool because our pride propped us up. You follow me? One of those stick. You do this. You don't let people respond. You don't let them talk to you like this. In the picture I painted about the going to school to pick up the child, you don't have the ability to be able to dictate to the school what the policies and procedures are. But if you get triggered on the phone before you come prepared for battle. You come prepared for battle mentally, away from your center. So you're not going to be receiving anything civil. The battle that you're prepared for is an emotional battle. Cuss words, name calling, behavior that's unbecoming. I was in a stream the other day, and the question came up. I don't know how it had to do with whether or not was ghetto a mindset or lifestyle. I guess when we look at that term in respect in relationship to how you responded to the school, it would look like ghetto. Is it a lifestyle? If you're not doing the work and you continually get pulled from your center that has love attached to it, it's a lifestyle. You know, because it's done over and over and over, thinking you're going to get a different result because you're stuck on first base. You're stuck in bitterness. You don't want to be better. You don't believe through self-doubt. You don't believe through self-doubt that you can become better. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of energy. But if we are to pour into our children and have an expectation that they live a life better than us, then we definitely have to take the high road. At least that's what Unc discovered somewhere between middle school and high school. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you I don't quite know what this means about when young people say, I'm not selling out. I mean, I don't, I'm not the negative that's attached to that. You don't want to be cooperative or have a cooperative attitude because that may look like that you're less than a man or woman, that you're less than a African American man or woman, or that's not what that means. You see what happens? So we're away from the center. There ain't no love attached to it. And all of the garbage that we learned, like I learned to 1632, comes back up. It's down here. It comes back up. I get to reaching for all kind of stuff. Get to sounding like Lucille, my mother, talking the same way, doing some similar things that she would do to be able to compensate for the spot I find myself into. Self-doubt interferes with our ability to be able to do a check down with respect to the man-woman relationship, how we respond. Well, we learn to we learn to compensate and put on a mask and put on the game, but when we get away from whatever that immediate situation is, then that dark side rises up. We play the tape and we become just like the animal or the dog that we have at home in terms of our thoughts, in terms of our actions. Act just like that, uncivilized. I've heard it said, what do they call it? Uncivilized mutts. That's what we'll become, uncivilized mutts in a civilized society. And I'm the first one to tell you I've been to prison. Been out 40. I'm the first. So maybe I'm supposed to act like that. Maybe the ghetto's supposed to be in me. No, you can transcend. You can go from the gutter and go up. But you got to put a lot of work into it. You got to be sick and tired of being sick and tired of going through it. To where you get to a point where the mindset changes. That when you get to that center, and there's genuine love attached to that center, no, you're not going to let Pookie, you're not going to let Ray Ray, you're not going to let Betty, you're not going to let Karen pull you away from that because you know what the outcome's going to be. Lifting weights. So you say, well, is it just that easy? No, I'm not telling you cheap grace. It's hard. It's hard. How many times can you continue to be in situations and always have to go back and say, I'm sorry? At some point, that's cheap grace. Because you're going to have to become responsible for your actions and be held accountable for the words to come out of your mouth. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. At some point, it has no value. It has no value, especially when you have children behind you looking at how you're demonstrating. It has no value. So I'm being led around just like a horse with blinkers on, acting on nothing but my emotions. Our conscious is really where our sanity is located at. But see, we don't want to have, not all, but most, especially us men and women, we don't want to have these types of conversations because it requires for us to dig deep. It requires for us not to be superficial. It requires for us to be genuine, authentic. It requires for us to have real, meaningful conversation about what's at hand in the center. That requires work. I can't come to the center talking sideways, out of the both sides of my neck, cussing and hollering. Love won't allow that in the center. It'll check it. If you genuinely want to change, if you genuinely want to stop going to prison, stop going to jail, stop being homeless, you do the work, and by God, I'm here to tell you that it's possible for you to go up. You're going to have to put down some crutches and some other things. You're going to have to go seek counseling, some help. Everybody can't do it by way of self-help. So you're going to have to extend yourself to be able to go find your psychologist, a counselor. I don't know. But you got to get to the point where you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. No, and so you can't take anything personal. It's getting ready to start raining now. You know that there are certain political forces are saying that now it's time for us to move the homeless brothers and sisters in this direction. Well, if you're able, willing bodies that can work, and you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, and you don't want to have to conform to those rules, it's time for you to make a decision that I want to do right. I'm tired of living this lifestyle. Every time that I'm living under somebody else's privilege, I think that's how you say it, and they take an action, moves me away from my center. It's a trigger. It's an emotion. Because I'm bought into that. I'm locked into the self-doubt that helps send me there with the pride that props that thing up. That I don't want to do the work. It's my mama's fault. It's society's fault. It's my old boss's fault that I lost my job, that I went to jail, that I'm in the gutter. Self-doubt, man. The anger, the rage, the resentment. I said the imposters, evil and pride. That's what they are. They're imposters. Because they'll come behind every bit of trouble you got and prop you up and hold that thing up until your head gets cut off. Figuratively speaking. My brothers and sisters who are in prison, who are in these county jails, you have to come to a point in your life where you're sick and tired of being sick and tired of doing the same thing over and over and over, thinking that you can gain your way out of it. It's going to change. It's a new day. It's a new time. And this place that I'm talking about, grounded center with love attached to it, you can get that. You can come from the pits of hell here on this earth and get there and be successful. Take a lot of work. If it ain't worth working for, or working hard for, it ain't worth having. You may not be able to get back where you perceive in your mind that you like to get, but you'll definitely be able to get out of the rut you're in when you go from bitter to better to responsible to accountable, accountable to the struggle, and from the struggle to rejection. Learning how to deal with each one of those, but piece by piece, to where you get stronger from lifting that weight, that when you get to motivation, you come out of that gate and you run like you never ran before, to go take back the stuff that you gave up, that landed you into first base. You'll be able to objectively look at how you got in first base, how you stayed there for so long, you'll be able to identify whose fault it was. Because so often when we talk about injustices and we have people around us to support the bull crap in us, we always like to blame it on somebody else. Well, I'm here to tell you, when you do a self-inventory, brothers and sisters, it ain't fake. It's got to be real. You have to do a self-inventory about Dexter, about Susie, about Betty, about Pookie, about Ray Ray, about how we got to where we are, the places we don't want to be in our life. And I'm here to tell you that, contrary to what a lot of people believe, we have a tendency, marginalized men and women, to assign the blame for what we are, we have a tendency to blame it on white people. We never want to take account of responsibility as a man and a woman for how we got there, because it hurts us to go back and see what we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be in the center, attached to love. It worked for us before when we were kids coming up. We weren't full of mess. We didn't have people pulling at us. During that time, we had a mother and father, or mother, somebody to look out for us. Are you following my drift? This is so for all you brothers and sisters who are strung out on dope and getting in rehab, this is like a 7-step or whatever. This is like Alcohol Anonymous program, just a different form. This is dealing with anger, rage, and resentment. Same concept mentally, just a little deeper. You don't want to take any medicine because you got the chemical imbalance, but yet still you like to respond just like a dog from the lower parts of your body. You like to respond always negatively to folk, people in authority. That's just where you've been there so long. You are resigned to staying there. And that's your choice. If you are resigned to stay in first base, then you become collateral damage. That's a you problem. That's not a us problem. That's a you problem. That's what you got to get a hold of. Because we're talking about us and you. You means Dexter. Us means society as a whole. Got to be responsible. Us is going to hold you accountable based on acceptable behavior within the village, within the community. That's not unreasonable. I'm not going to go there. So important for us to, again, to stay in the center, to stay grounded. The process of meditation, whether it's 2 minutes, whether it's a minute, it's like lifting weights, but that process helps us get closer to the center. It don't happen overnight. But you're going to have to learn to sit still and realize that you're not the Most High. It ain't all about you. You've got to learn how to sit and be able to control the endless loops and thoughts as this thing races. I'm talking more about you loving Dexter, Pookie loving Pookie, Karen loving Karen. My brothers and sisters, you loving yourself and learning to love yourself. Quit judging yourself about the pitfalls in life that you've made. Again, going to this from bitter all the way to motivation, you can take it and mix it up and do it whatever way you want to do it. But know that you must do the work. There are no free lunches. If we expect to be able to put some tools in our toolboxes that will allow us to be able to navigate through life, to become successful, to live the lifestyles we want to live, to do things we want to do, to be associated with the people we want to be associated with. Self-doubt, in the book, The Four Agreements, you have to, so the first agreement is, I believe, is be impeccable with your word. Second, don't take anything personal. Third, don't make assumptions. The fourth, always do your best. I'm not telling you something that I just read. I'm telling you something that I've been living bit by bit, piece by piece for 40 years. You fall and you bump your head, you get scrapes on you along the way. But for the most part, this is, in a nutshell, really, how Unc has been able to get to where I am today. Brothers and sisters, I think Zen said it this way, and I've really never heard it put this way. So when you can use your hands, when you can take the first step to come out of bitterness, to be able to go look for a job, learn the culture of work, do some of this work, and also go to counseling, seek counseling, do some other things, you ought to get to the point to where you can be on one job for at least 10 years. If they have you. If you can stay in your center, stay on one job for 10 years, now that new programming of 10 years may be able to overtake that old stuff that I had at 1632. That's what happened for me. I never looked at it in terms of putting it in numbers like that. It kept being repeated. The behavior of going to get the money, going to get resources, learning new things at the job. It took 10 years for it finally to get inside of me. This is what you got to do in order to live. Well, it overtook, for the most part, this other need to have to want to act like an animal, an uncivilized person, and go steal, rob, beg, and borrow. And I wasn't in my center because I didn't know nothing about the center yet. It was in me. I had read about it in prison, but I wasn't quite there, hadn't dumped all of it out. So that's one step. You can do it repetitively for, what is that, 7, 7, 14, it's 144 months. You're talking the jail time. It's 144 months. You get to a job, let's assume you take the babysit. That you get the job, and whether at McDonald's, I don't care what's that. You stay at the job on 5 years. That's 60 months. You've been doing it over and over and over and over. Acceptable. There is no excuse for you to stay on first base. You ought to be halfway through this process that I'm talking about. You may have skipped some of this part. You may have skipped some of this and went right to figuring out how to center yourself. How to have love connected to it. How to change your attitude. How to deal with people. How to deal with supervisors and bosses and customers. You see? Because it's all a learned behavior. You'll be tested. It's part of the growth process. But will you ever want to go back to where you come from? No. Will you strive? Will there be a eagerness in you to strive, to do better, to get more, and never go back? You'll be so motivated that first base, that's the last place you'd ever want to go. And that's what it's going to take, men and women, marginalized men and women, and probably men and women in general, who just don't seem to know how to make this thing work, this thing called life, this man and woman relationship, what the expectations are. I got 2 or 3 kids, and don't know nothing about raising kids, don't know nothing about loving on women, don't know nothing about community, don't know nothing about self. Well, I can tell you 5 years will help you begin to understand about self. You may be a drunk during those 5 years, but you get up and go to work. You perform. You follow me. You don't have to necessarily do it the way I did it. Everybody ain't a self-motivator. But one thing you got to do is you got to be sick and tired of being sick and tired. You got to be able to taste the honey coming out of bitterness. And that honey represents resources. So you take that same theory and you take your 14-year-old son who's a hardhead and you go find him a part-time job at McDonald's and you sign the paperwork allowing him to work. It don't take but 4 or 5 good checks for him to understand, oh, ding, 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 ding. This is what's expected of me in order to get this paycheck every 2 weeks. Do you follow what I'm talking about? Maybe rough around the edges because sat and watched you, just like my son sat and watched me from anger, rage, and resentment. You follow me? And so they duplicated some of that stuff in their young life. I just thought I'm just stopping by just to give some gems, as y'all call it. But the name of the game is doing the work. Do less of talking, do more work from the inside. You do less talking, do the work, the light or shine. The light or shine. You don't have to have a need to go to work for 5 years and you're going to have to outwork the next person. But in terms of how you become compensated, how you move up, you just put your head down and work hard and you'll move up. You'll move up faster than what you think you can move up. Because, see, you'll be tested. There'll be situations that come up. As long as you're in your center and dealing with it and attached to love, the dark side won't have a chance to rise up. Did it make sense? Did I make the connection? Love is a powerful thing. I didn't say this other stuff that I learned in 1632 that love's up here and up here is attached to that. I ain't said that. The love I'm talking about is silent. It's in the pit of my belly. It's silent. It's a guider. It's a light. But when you understand, when you learn the tools to understand, get your dictionary, get your thesaurus, understand what grounded means. Look up what engage and disengage looks like. You got to get a grip of what these words mean to you, my brother, to you, my sister. What do these words mean now to me? How do I get these words deposited? Once I agree with the words, the terms of the words, how do I now deposit these words or the terms inside of me where it makes me better? It has to be a desire. You have to want to change. And I'm here to tell you that it ain't all doomsday. Because you are homeless, my brothers and sisters, because you are in prison, my brothers and sisters, because you're on the counter, doesn't mean you're doomed. We can have a debate about whether or not there are more or less chances for you to be able to further where you need to go, but is it possible for you to get out and change your life and go, yes. But now if you're gonna go there and get stuck on first base and come out and think people owe you something, never learning how to take being responsible for your actions, being held accountable for what you've done, then you become collateral damage. You'll crash out. You'll crash out. Young folk, old folk, you understand the definition of crash out. when in your emotional state, you become detached from that center of grounded of reasoning attached to love, you're guaranteed to crash out emotionally. You're guaranteed to have a meltdown. You won't be able to control it, and pride and ego won't allow you to control it. I said they're imposters. And they'll show up just like the Agent Smith in the Matrix, a whole bunch of different forms in your mind. So if you have the opportunity to be able to go to some healing circles, or church groups, some counselors, or you have the opportunity to be able to get help, go get it. Put your pride down. Put your pride down and be humble, and your ego will drop. Who cares whether or not this brother or this sister knows that you're on the brink of having a mental problem? Who cares about that? They don't pay any bills of yours. Who cares about whether or not that they know that you just got out of prison? That they don't. You still have a right to eat. The brothers and sisters who are homeless, they still got a right to eat. But you got to make the first step. Ain't nobody in this United States, I know, is just going to come over and just give you food that's good and nourishing for your body on a long term. When you have useful hands, you have a sound mind, you can walk, you can take instructions. But I'm here to tell you, if you can scoot your way to the center, in the middle, and learn to be still while you're there, and get grounded there with love, you'll overcome the obstacles down here that you encountered. Unc did it. Unc did it. I didn't conquer them all, but I still got some work to do. But Unc did it. I put my head down for 40 years, kept my mouth shut. Mind my business through all of the injustices that I may have seen and encountered. If it didn't affect me, I didn't take it on. Well, initially I did. So let's say half of it, the last 20 years. The first 20 years I thought I was somebody's savior. So it can be done. You can go, sky's the limit. For my brothers and sisters who are incarcerated and my brothers and sisters who are homeless, who have felonies, I'm informed that you can, which I'm in the process of doing, going to be in the process of doing here soon, is apply for a certificate of rehabilitation, which then, once it's approved, turns into an application for a pardon, where some other things can be restored to you. Now, I never thought because of a kidnap robbery that I could apply for it, but I've been doing more reading on it now, and yes, there's certain crimes you get stuck, and you're stuck. And even in those certain in these areas where you have crimes where you're stuck, where they're unbecoming to society, and there's certain occupations you can't go into, that's it. You don't crash out and just stay homeless, because there are other jobs out there. So you got to do the work. You have to prepare yourself to get to the point to where now, okay, I'm limited in what I can do. Let me find out what it is that I can do. How can I put these hands to good use with the limited amount of choices that I have, and go get it. A lot of you brothers and sisters who are in prison, nobody ever told you, just like nobody ever told Unc. You make these bad decisions to get yourself in there. Not think, and you always thought, well, I just go to jail and come out and get a job. Well, there's a lot of occupations that's not going to have you, not going to accept you. It's a mark and a stain on you, and you have to learn how to deal with that. Only way you can learn how to deal with that rejection, because Mama didn't teach Uncle Dexter how to deal with rejection at 1632. Nobody wants to be rejected. So how do you deal with that rejection that's going to come tenfold? You better be grounded in reason and in love to deal with the Fred Doss that says no, 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 and be able to say thank you and keep it moving. Because the more you press in, somebody's going to say yes. But you got to change your mindset. You got to change how you move, how you walk, how you talk, how you drink. There's a whole bunch of stuff you're going to have to do. You're not going to be able to come in there dressing the way you want to dress, talking the way you want to talk. You would have had to have been involved in somebody's life skills program to teach you about resumes, about how to dress, about how to interview, and you would have to have learned how to adopt that, buy into that, marry that information, and now that becomes a part of you. I'm just coming to give you some gems about how to get up out of the situation. If you like that and that's where you want to be, God bless you. Brothers and sisters in prison, if that's what you like, God bless you. But you have to understand, when you come out here and you don't make no advancement, it's a you problem. Not a mama problem. Not a white man's problem. Not a black man's problem. It's a Michael's problem. It's a Karen's problem. It's a Pookie's problem. It's a Ray Ray's problem. Whomever name associated with not wanting to make the change, it's their problem. They must own it. That's what it's about. I'm down to my last couple minutes. I got this little box, cigar box that's empty. And it's got the anger, the rage, the resentment, the bitterness, the vitriol, the hatred, the envy, the jealousy, and the two imposters. You put all those in the box. The box goes inside of you. This is a house. While you chewing bubblegum, while you're walking, while you are trying to get yourself out of the situation you're in, they go inside the box. You now become responsible and accountable for what comes out of the box. Well, how does it come out? Through your mouth. It's poison. Every one of those things, it's poison. It's no benefit for you trying to advance yourself in a civilized society. Now, it's a benefit for you if you want to live like uncivilized mutt, like an animal. There is a dark side to everybody. So you can congregate with folk just like you. And that's how y'all move. You got to understand, you become collateral damage. You're living at the whims of civilized folks and how they move, how they want to control and dictate. You had no say-so in that process. You would have forfeited the right to partake in that. This is a hard work, man. But when we have children, in which most of us have children, we owe it to our children to do the work to set the example. I don't care how old you are. There has to be a process of duplication, especially with our children. They must see something good in the mother and father. Well, Pookie says, or Ray Ray says, I can't stand my father, but you go to church. Well, how can you love the father you don't see, but you don't love the father you can't see? Help me understand that. It's a work in progress. And brothers and sisters, you've got to do the work. You have to learn to put some tools in your toolbox. I know I sound like you can do all this. No, it has. Some people are a lot better learners or faster learners than others. As long as you can get away from being bitter, going to better. As long as you understand that foundation and how that interferes with your ability to be able to get to being motivated to take off running. And then having the other tools in the middle to stay running, to stay motivated. Everything else, you live a life. You just work on. Just thought I'd stop by on a Saturday morning. I'll be back tomorrow to have. I think I may attempt to do some kitchen talk. I don't know if I'm gonna do it in there. I'm gonna do it not tomorrow morning, but I'm gonna do it tomorrow. Stay encouraged. Be good to yourself. For my brothers and sisters who are in the rehab for the drugs and in the prison and who had drug problems, the prayers for men is a good book. But I gotta tell you, I'm impressed with this particular book. Hijack Dopamine Addiction. It's brand new. Don't know if you can get it in the rehab. Don't know if you can get it in the prisons. But I sure would ask my mama or somebody to order me a copy. I have a couple books around, but this one is a good read. It may take you a minute to get through it, but it's well written, and it deals with that stuff that sends us back to first base, that pulls us away from our center that's attached to love, that stuff we used to be grounded to. See, because once we get pulled away from it, and then we go to the alcohol, we go to the fentanyl, we go to the cocaine, we go to the marijuana, we're no longer on our center. And ain't no love attached to nothing. We operate on pure charisma, our own will. Hey, thank you so very much. See you tomorrow. Stay encouraged. Young babies, the young children, you hold on to your mama and daddy's leg, your grandpa. We are in the fourth quarter. And I think us as a community, us as a village, have to pour into the young people, the young adults. We got to continue to pour. May not see the immediate results, but you got to continue to pour good stuff out. Even when they're acting from their lower parts, their animalistic nature, that dark side, you still have to pour into. You still have to be motivated to pull something out of you, not be selfish. Pour into the folk. Talk with people. Talk with these young folks. Love on them. They'll know whether or not you're genuine based upon your voice box and your eyes. This stuff you don't get a chance to rehearse. People know when you're phony. But that's part of giving back. Hey, thank you so very much. I'll see you tomorrow.
You're the one who loved me so. You're the one who always cares. You're the one who always cares. You're the one who let me know. You're the one who loved me so. on my key socks. Leave you formulate and wait for me when I deplete stock. Backslid, whole play, still when my feet stop. Defeat not, we each stop. You turn out like the God until I cannot be stopped. The Alicia keys for me to open each lock. Policy, open door and door under each lock. Small box watch, now my present every second. I can doctor out a chronic album counter with the detox. It's a lyric, I can hear it when my knee drops. Louder than a chopper, so what? This is deep, I spit something abundant with love and echo with covenant. One last chance, give me pity, I'll be open it. But nothing bigger than the simple living in the first 6 letters of big stuff. You're the one who let me know